You're sitting in a cave. It's 7000 BC. The sun went down hours ago, and it is pitch black, freezing cold, and you are in absolute blinding agony. You don't have an infection from a saber-toothed tiger bite, and you didn't fall off a cliff. No, your left lower molar has a cavity. It is a tiny, microscopic hole where bacteria is slowly eating its way toward your jawbone, hitting an exposed nerve ending with the force of a lightning bolt every time you breathe in the cold air. There is no Advil. There is no Oraguajal. There is no emergency dentist open on a Saturday. There is just you, rocking back and forth in the dark, holding your jaw, wishing you were dead. And then your cousin walks over, looks at your swollen face, and pulls out a weapon. Except it's not a spear to hunt a mammoth. It's a piece of sharpened flintstone attached to a literal bowstring drill. The exact same tool they use to friction light fires. And he looks at you and says, "All right, open up. This is gonna hurt." This is the story of the nightmare of prehistoric dentistry. Not root canals, not braces, not the friendly receptionist who asks you about your weekend while shoving sharp metal hooks into your bleeding gums. We're talking about the very first time human beings realized that their mouths were rotting out of their heads and decided to do something about it using Stone Age power tools, and why this agonizing, terrifying moment might be the exact price we paid for creating civilization in the first place. Because here's the thing, nobody tells you. Ancient humans didn't always have bad teeth. If you go back 20,000 years into the Paleolithic era, the time of nomadic hunter-gatherers, their dental health was actually incredible. Archaeologists look at hunter-gatherer skulls all the time and find straight, beautifully spaced teeth with almost zero cavities. They didn't have toothbrushes, they didn't have dental floss, and they sure as hell weren't rinsing with Listerine. So, what was their secret? They didn't eat carbs, they ate wild game, nuts, berries, and fibrous roots. Their diet was so tough and required so much aggressive chewing that it naturally scraped their teeth clean. Plus, without processed sugars or heavy starches, the nasty bacteria in your mouth, specifically Streptococcus mutans, the little villain responsible for tooth decay, literally had nothing to eat. It was a dental paradise. Hunter-gatherers had a lot of things to worry about, like getting stomped by a woolly rhino, but a random cavity wasn't one of them. But then, around 10,000 years ago, humans made what might be the single greatest logistical mistake in our evolutionary history. We invented agriculture. We stopped running around after animals, settled down, and started farming wheat, barley, corn, and rice. And while farming gave us stable food, a massive population boom, and eventually cities, it absolutely destroyed our mouths. Suddenly, the human diet was 70% carbohydrates. And what happens when you chew carbs? They break down into simple sugars. You essentially turn the human mouth into a warm, wet, 98-degree petri dish flooded with a 24-hour sugar buffet. The bacteria exploded. Cavities skyrocketed. Within a few generations, human history went from straight, clean teeth to an absolute horror show of abscesses, rotting roots, and agonizing pain. And humans, being the stubborn, intelligent creatures we are, didn't say, "Hey, maybe let's stop eating this wheat stuff." Instead, they said, "Go grab the power tools." This isn't speculation. In 2001, archaeologists excavating a 9,000-year-old Neolithic graveyard in Mehrgarh, Pakistan, made a discovery that sent a literal shiver down the spine of the scientific community. They found 11 skulls belonging to adult humans who had perfect, tiny, mathematically precise holes drilled into their molars. Think about the sheer, unadulterated terror of this setup. We are talking about 7,000 BC. There is no anesthesia. There is no laughing gas. There is no local numbing agent. You are pinned down to the dirt floor of a mud brick house by 3 of your strongest friends. The dentist kneels over you, takes a wooden bow drill with a tiny, razor-sharp flint stone tip, a tool normally used to drill holes into bone or wood for jewelry, and presses it directly against your raw, sensitive tooth. Then, they start pulling the bow back and forth. The flint tip spins at high speed, friction heating your enamel to burning temperatures, grinding through the hard outer shell, and plunging down into the dentin. Just millimeters away from the main nerve, the sound alone inside your own skull would have been deafening. The smell of burning bone and tooth dust would fill the room. And yet, the archaeology shows that these ancient dentists knew exactly what they were doing. The holes are perfectly round, concentric, and smoothed out. In some cases, they drilled into the back sides of the teeth, where it's incredibly difficult to reach. They weren't just hacking away out of desperation, they had a developed technique. They were cleaning out the rot to save the tooth. And the craziest part? It worked. Archaeologists examined the drilled teeth under scanning electron microscopes and found evidence of long-term healing and wear after the drilling occurred, meaning these Stone Age patients actually survived the procedure, kept living their lives, and kept chewing with those exact same drilled teeth for years. Honestly, respect. That is a level of psychological toughness that modern humans cannot even fathom. We complain when the dental hygienist scrapes a little too hard. These guys were taking a literal flint stone drill to the face on a Tuesday afternoon and going back to harvest wheat right after. But humans didn't stop at drilling. Once you clear out a cavity, you have to fill it, or food gets stuck and the rot comes back twice as bad. And the ancient solutions for dental fillings are beautifully unhinged. In Slovenia, researchers found a 6,500-year-old human jawbone with a deep crack in a canine tooth. Someone had painstakingly packed the crack with beeswax. The theory is they melted the wax, poured it into the tooth to seal the nerve from the air, and let it harden. It's the world's oldest known dental filling. In ancient Egypt, things got even weirder. The Egyptians were famous for having terrible teeth because their flour was ground using stone mills, meaning their bread was filled with microscopic desert quartz sand. Eating Egyptian bread was basically like eating sandpaper. It ground their teeth down to the raw nerves. To fix the pain, Egyptian papyrus texts describe dental recipes where they blended ground resin, celery, and okra into a paste to pack into loose teeth. If that didn't work, they would take a fine gold wire and literally tie a loose tooth to the healthy tooth next to it so it wouldn't fall out while they were eating. The transition from this wild, brutal, community-based survival medicine to what we have today is a fascinating look at human nature. For thousands of years, dentistry wasn't a separate, respected medical profession. In the Middle Ages, if you had a toothache, you didn't go to a doctor. You went to the local barber. The same guy who cut your hair and trimmed your beard kept a pair of heavy iron pliers under his counter. You'd sit in his chair, he'd pour a shot of cheap whiskey down your throat, yank the tooth out by force, and then go right back to shaving the next customer. It wasn't until the 19th and 20th centuries that industrialists and scientists realized that they could turn our collective dental misery into a massive multi-billion-dollar consumer empire. They invented mass-produced toothpaste, synthetic toothbrushes, and chemical fillings. They engineered a world where we spend hundreds of dollars a year on products, specifically designed to fix a problem that we created when we decided to clear the forests and plant fields of wheat 10,000 years ago. A tribal healer in ancient Pakistan drilling a tooth with a flint stone and a modern corporate executive selling whitening strips on a television commercial are both responding to the exact same evolutionary trade-off. We chose the convenience of civilization, and our teeth have been paying the tax ever since. So, when did humans start practicing dentistry? The physical evidence says at least 9,000 years ago, but the behavioral drive is likely as old as our first crop harvest. The moment we changed our diet, we broke the natural harmony of our bodies, and we've been using our intelligence to patch up the damage ever since. The ability to look at a screaming friend, look at a primitive fire-starting drill, and think, if I drill out that black spot, the pain will stop. That isn't just medical history. That is the raw, stubborn genius of human survival. There's something deeply comforting about that. For all the things that separate us from the people who lived at the dawn of civilization, the smartphones, the cars, the supermarkets, the endless streaming content, there are these painful, hilarious threads of continuity that connect us across thousands of years. So, next time you are sitting in a sterile, brightly lit dentist's office, listening to that high-pitched, soft electronic whine of the modern drill, and you feel that little knot of anxiety tightening in your stomach, take a deep breath. Look around. Look at the padded chair. Look at the little cup of mint-flavored rinsing water. Look at the syringe of high-grade numbing agent sitting on the tray. You're participating in a ritual that is older than the pyramids. You're doing what humans have done for 9,000 years. Except, this time, nobody is holding you down, and there isn't a single piece of flint stone in sight. You're going to be completely fine. Just remember to rinse.